Good morning, diners, and welcome to another special Corona News update here on the Klops Cafe of the Doomstead Diner. And today we have another special overseas cross the pond chat scheduled with a couple of folks from jolly old England. You will recognize them when they come on, okay, in a few minutes. But for now, it's time to get the introduction over with, and today's meal. This broadcast is going to concern itself with England and how they're dealing with coronavirus over there, and how their National Health Service is faring under the strain, and so forth, right? So, what could I make for brunch appropriate? Well, there was only one choice, and that was fish and chips, okay? Well, maybe shepherd's pie. Could have made shepherd's pie too, but no. Fish and chips, nice and easy, more or less. I mean, I almost went and got, stupidly complex and said, I got some nice halibut fillets in the fridge, in the freezer. I'll make my own batter and I'll really do it up, like really good. But then I said, no, fuck. I have been doing goddamn too much gourmet cooking and I'm tired of it. All right? I mean, I like good food, but I don't really need to eat good food all the time. Peanut butter sandwich is great, okay? Hard-boiled egg is great. And so, for the fish and chips, I went with Gorton's frozen fish fillets. These guys, okay? Nice and golden brown fried, though, deep fried. All right? And they're good, I have no idea what kind of fish is inside them, but it tastes pretty good overall. And then I have the chips, all right, and here they are, okay, also deep fried. So, your cardiologist won't like you if you have this meal. And chips are what we would call in the FS of A steak fries, okay? They're not French fries. French fries are skinnier cut and so forth. Steak fries and chips, they're thick cut and, hefty, meaty. All right? They've got some body to them. And I like them better overall than the shoestring type potatoes that you get at Mickey D's and Burger King and so forth and so on. And a little difference, the usual fries in Britain, they peel the potatoes. I don't peel my potatoes, okay? Because I like the skin fried. It's fine. And the skin has lots of vitamins in it, right? And to dip that in, I've got some tartar sauce. And then also, the Brits have mushy peas with their fish and chips. Which is, well, go on the net, you'll see how you make it. And you blend up peas and you put in a couple other ingredients, and then you use it to kind of dip your fish in. Well, I went looking in my vast supply of canned goods to see if I had any canned peas. And I know I have them, but I couldn't find them. That's another thing, I've got to alphabetize or something. Because, I can't find... I can find certain types of canned goods that I, that I use all the time. Beans, I use all the time. And, diced tomatoes, I use all the time. But, and so I have lots of cans of those. But peas, I don't eat canned vegetables like that. Peas, they're gross out of the can. Like canned asparagus, also gross. Some vegetables can okay, others don't. Corn, corn kernels can okay. Beans can okay. But peas, no. Asparagus, no. Broccoli, no. So I had to substitute, okay? And I did. And it had to be green, it had to be mushy. What could I do that was green and mushy to add? And what I came up with, which I had, was guacamole. Yes. So I'm having guacamole with my fish. And I already tried it with another filet just to see how it would be. And it is a taste sensation. I have invented something entirely new. Nobody has fish and chips with guacamole, but it's great. All right? You got to try it. And, I'll never make fried fish again without the guacamole. Never again. And the next time that I do it, if I cook it for somebody, a real person that I'm with, that's going to share it with me, I will use good Alaska fish, fresh fish, and my own batter recipe, and so forth. And, I'll do it upright. But for me, alone, before a broadcast, or after a broadcast, actually, the food is here, but I won't eat it until the broadcast is finished. And I will refresh it, okay? I won't eat it cold. And to refresh it, you just throw it back in the oil for another minute, and everything comes out crispy, and it's good. All right. And now, let me introduce our two guests for the afternoon. From jolly old England, Jason Heppenstall of 22 Billion Energy Slaves, the blog, who has been a friend for a long time, and Monster 666, who was my sidekick and co-host on many of the early Collapse Cafe broadcasts, but who has been walkabout for a while, but has resurfaced here with the coronavirus. So, gentlemen, say hello to the diners and everybody else. And here's our guest from jolly old England, Jason Heppenstall of 18 Billion Energy Slaves, and Monster 666, another admin on the diner. Jason, say hi to the diners and anybody else who's watching.
Hi there, good evening, and welcome from Cornwall.
Cornwall, England. That's, for those of you who don't know your geography, that is in the south part of England.
Yeah.
And, Monster, where are you in England?
So I'm based in London, so I hope people know where that is. Capital of England. What would they say? I'm in the center of everything. I think London is supposedly a few weeks ahead of everyone in England in terms of this corona.
And just like New York City, and the other, fame, besides being the political center of England, it's also the home of the City of London, which is a central part of London where the financial trading happens. And like Wall Street, it is a major, or one of the major markets in the world, and controls a lot of financial aspects of our monetary system. So anyway, let's get to talking about coronavirus and what's happening over there. I want to start with the sort of local view, local perspective on what's happening in your part of the country and what you actually see and how the people are behaving and all the rest of that. Jason, what's happening in Cornwall?
Well, to say that, I mean, it's normally reasonably quiet anyway at this time of year. I've been walking around the streets in the town that I live in, which is kind of a medium-sized
old market town with you see lots of people in the street shopping. I went out earlier and there was a lot of the shops are closed now. And there are hardly any people walking around, very few cars, there's very limited activity. Of course, all the bars, restaurants and the pubs are now closed, keeping indoors, and when they are outdoors, we're supposed to be keeping our distance from one another. So it's a very strange situation. But adding to that, I mean, just for context, Cornwall is a reasonably remote area in Britain. It's out of the Atlantic. And during the summer months, these are still big cities, but during the winter months, they're normally empty. But what we're seeing now is we're seeing a huge influx of people pouring out of the cities, driving down to Cornwall. And they began arriving, over the last few days. Yesterday evening when I went down to the beach to walk my dog, they're all turning out in cars. I mean, Cornwall is a reasonably, so people tend to have old cars here, have like new cars with boxes on the roof. A lot of people are coming down here to self-isolate. They've rented cottages for a month or 2 months. They're paying huge amounts of money to be away from the current epicenter of London.
Mm-hmm. It's very much like what occurred back in the days of the plague in Europe. The wealthy people who lived in the city also had land outside of the city, and they went to their farms and so forth that they owned to ride out the plague away from where most of the death was occurring, which was in the cities of that era. I expect that wealthy people are doing that right now all over the world. I read on the diner that they're flying in their private jets and so forth to their hideaways that they have, and they are going to try to avoid the virus as best they can. And they also will, of course, be the first people to get the vaccine when one becomes available. So this disease is going to affect the poor disproportionately, for sure. I'm sure it already is. All right, and Mansta, so you're now in the city. What are you seeing around town? I know you're self-sequestering already, so you're not actually out there gallivanting. But what have you run across so far?
Well, since Tuesday I've been self-isolating, so not been on the ground, so to speak. So I don't really know what's going out in the last few days. But then before Tuesday, I went to the store. And that's just as for panic buying, not panic buying, sorry, just getting spooked about the whole thing. There's also less traffic on the TfL. That's London Underground, for those unfamiliar. And I think it's gone down significantly since then, because I am in contact with people at work, and they've been telling me that there's just the stream of customers has gone down to a trickle. No one wants to come out. Half the stores are closed because there was no point. And then after Friday, everything has just been mandated to be closed, pretty much, except for essential services. I think the other thing as well is there's a lot of panic buying. The usual stuff, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, good luck finding that. And I think it's gone to other items now, like fresh meats, fruits even. People are stocking up on bread, the whole shebang. I'm not sure when that will stop, to be honest. This has been a sustained period of panic. I can't remember panic buying lasting this long. It's been going on for almost a month now. I think one of the things, so I would say is, and this is significant, is, we've already had people self-isolating in the store, and then, you're meeting these people who are self-isolating, but no one's getting tested for COVID-19. So, if people come back, you'll just think, did they have corona? Did I get corona? No one really knows unless you're in a position where you need the hospital, which makes you have to think that if you look at the numbers, the official stat, I think, is, 5,000 in the UK now, thereabouts. That is probably a gross underestimate. I think even the government, in fairness, admits it's a gross estimate. So you have to take that with a huge pinch of salt. It's just basically it's an indicator of the sickest people. There's no community monitoring at all.
Right. It's the number of people who've been hospitalized at this point, more or less, or at least have gone into the hospital and been diagnosed as having coronavirus. I read that globally the count is now up to 200,000 infections and 10,000 dead so far. So that is about a 5% mortality rate, which is hefty. And if there's... yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, officially, I'm just looking at the site, it's just over 300K now.
Oh, it's to 300?
300. And just under 13,000 have died.
Yeah. It's, all right, so that's now a little more like 30-something percent. 3%. I'm sorry, 3.5%. Which is, where the estimates that I had been making on a diner are based on a 3% mortality rate. And, if it continues in exponential growth, in a month, you'll have well over 1 billion people infected. And 3% of 1 billion is, 30 million people dead. Okay. It's a lot of meat packages to bury. And, grave diggers will be a growing profession. So we're definitely looking at, a real pandemic. And it's remains to be seen is how far it's going to go, and how bad it's going to get. And then, the length of time that it takes to develop effective treatments and effective vaccine, most of all, because the health services are already overwhelmed in places like Italy, and as Monsta mentioned, the NHS is already saying, just don't bother to come in unless you're, on your deathbed already. So that's not too good. So yeah, Jason, what about the NHS in your area? What are your perspectives on how the National Health Service is reacting, how the politicians are reacting to this, and their general modus operandi to address the COVID problem? What are your perspectives on that?
Well, I've kind of got a little bit of an insider view on it because my wife is she's kind of a nurse in the local hospital, and we live in a town with a hospital, but the main hospital in the region is in Truro, which is the kind of the capital of the region where I live, and that's a fairly big hospital there, and that's the hospital where they are enacting their COVID-19 plan. So if anybody gets it, they're going to end up there. What they're doing is they're clearing out the regional hospitals, the local town hospitals, like where I live. They're clearing them out of patients right now, so that other more serious patients can come into them from through it. And to be honest, it sounds like quite an efficient operation. They're getting all the products that they need. testing is available. There are lots of protocols in place, which is kind of odd because everything that I hear in the media says that this is a terrible situation, we won't be able to cope, etc., etc. And I do agree that there probably is going to be a pinch point with things like ICU beds and respirators, and that could be a severe problem. And that's probably why the government is enacted this plan of so-called flattening the curve. In other words, what they're doing is they are trying to isolate the more vulnerable people, like the older people, or people who have compromised immune systems. So I think it's from today, isn't it? Although they're not really supposed to go out, they're supposed to be at home all the time. Of course, this is voluntary. And obviously everyone else can still go out, but we're supposed to keep our distance, and all the pubs are closed now, and the restaurants as of last night. So there's a plan, from how I understand it anyway, from the government, is that they want to make sure that there's no point where the NHS will be totally overwhelmed with new cases. Whether they're able to do that or not, I don't know, but from my perspective of knowing people that work in the NHS, they're all hard at work, making sure that they're ready. And funnily enough, they're actually saying things are going quite well, and they're actually more peaceful than normal, because we had this phenomenon before of bed blockers, and these are people that are basically living in hospitals. They claim that they can't leave, and the reason they can't leave is because they haven't got adequate social care at home. And then quite simply turn around to all these people, their families, and they said, look, your relatives are going to have to go home now because this hospital is going to be full of proper patients soon. And almost miraculously, a lot of them have just disappeared. They've suddenly, found the ability to walk and left. So in actual fact, the hospital where my wife works at the moment is almost empty now. All these people that said that they couldn't possibly go anywhere have suddenly gone. So they've got the time now to get the place ready when it's expected wave of inpatients.
Right.
So I'm not overly optimistic, obviously, because it's a serious situation. But you do hear a lot of media about it being total chaos, and maybe it is in some places, but that's not what I'm hearing.
Well, one thing that Hugo Bardi mentioned, with the chaos that is ongoing in Italy, is that the number of beds issue, and the fact that Italy has dropped over the last couple of decades from 10 beds per 1,000 people living in Italy, hospital beds, that's not ICU beds, to down to 3. And the ICU beds also have, decreased proportionately. So, but that England has an even lower number of beds per person or per 1,000 people at 2.8 per 1,000. And Germany, being the rich country of Europe and the lender of funny money, controller of, for the most part, of the European Central Bank, they have 9 beds per 1,000 people at the moment. And the United States has, I think, it's like England, I think it's lower than England, 2.5 beds per 1,000 people. So, as this gets rolling here, our medical system is likely to be overwhelmed in a similar way to Italy. And I imagine that's starting to happen in the larger cities, the epicenters on the West Coast, Seattle, and on the East Coast now, New York. And, it's going to work its way in. That's the way it goes. Monster, I know your parents work in the NHS, or did work in the NHS. What are you hearing from them, and any insights from that side?
I think, from one end, from one of my parents' end, it's more kind of similar to Jason's account, in the sense that they're clearing patients out, all electives are being cancelled, and non-urgent operations are just basically postponed, and they're just preparing. But from other people I know, they're saying there's not enough masks. People are, like, I'm hearing stories where people are ventilating with very minimal protective gear. So it could be one of those things, like what they say here, like postcode lottery. So, what's true in one hospital might not necessarily be true in another one. It depends on the location and the cases that you get. And the one that I heard was like in a London hospital. So I'm guessing they would be more. This would be what's the word? They would have much more cases, I would imagine.
Right. The London currently being the epicenter for England of the infections is it's going to see the local hospitals be overwhelmed first. Oh, my Crippled Helper is here. Enter! Hi. Hey, how are you? I am in the middle of a conference, so come in and then go to work on the bed and just don't knock over my cameras, okay? Okay. Okay, and I will then we'll be talking for a little while longer, and then I'll tell you what else to do. Okay? Thanks. And folks, that's my Crippled Helper walking by. Okay? and I couldn't live without these people. They are just fabulous. I can't say enough good things about them. Anyway, let's get back to it. London is currently the center of the crisis, so and you're better off being outside of London if you can be, and this is going to be true just about everywhere. And rich people, of course, who have houses out in the country, they're going to be going to those places, and then the really rich who have bunkers and whatnot, stocked up for the next 20 years, will head to those places, and then the rest of the population, the vox populi, will be left to stay home and die. That seems to be the general advice. And so now, look into the future. Let's go a little bit with the economic end of this. That is a really big factor. It's just about as big as the medical fact in terms of the hardship that it's going to cause people. Has there been any talk about how to handle the financial hit that so many people are going to take here? A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, and if they're home self-sequestering, many, if not most of them, are not getting a paycheck. And so, 2 weeks go by, no paycheck. How do you meet the rent? How do you buy food, even if there is food available in the store? How are people going to deal with that? Has there been much consideration of that in your area, Jason?
Yeah, go on.
All right,
Yeah.
Matza.
Well, throughout the whole country, this is a national thing. There was a budget statement last week. We have a new councillor here, like the finance minister, appointed younger guy, and it was his first budget, and he immediately came out with a huge package. I think it was like £330 billion that would be made available to small businesses who were hit by it. That's a huge amount of money for a country this size. And then yesterday, all pubs, bars, restaurants, cafes are told to close indefinitely. So that's a hell of a lot of people working in that sector who have just suddenly lost their jobs. Leisure
Right.
centres as well, all gyms, everything. Anywhere that's social was just shut down as of today. And immediately the government again came out and said that they would pay everybody's wages. Like 80% of their wages would be paid. So, I mean, that
I
sounds
think
like,
the exact wording they said was, it's either 80% of your wages or 2,500 a month, whichever is less.
Mhm.
So if 80% is less than 2,500, you're getting 80%. But if 80% is like, if 2,500 a month isn't 80% of your wage, you're
That's all you
getting
get.
that
That's the
as a
max.
cap.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
still
people.
a huge amount of money.
Right.
Really, I can't quite see how it's all going to work. People are living paycheck to paycheck, especially certainly in the service industry. I mean, I worked at a cafe until 2 weeks ago. I quit that job when I saw the virus coming along.
I think there's a caveat as well to this. There is a caveat. They said it only applies if you lost your job due to the outbreak.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm sure there will be lots of caveats. I can't personally see it all being paid. But before that, you know, I worked in a hotel. The hotel shut down about a month ago. A lot of the hospitality industry was already in trouble. So I think that this will be a death blow for a lot of places.
Yeah. Hold on for a second, gang. Microwave. Okay. Okay. Next project for my super duper helper.
Looking ahead, I mean, the economic, for me personally, the economic impact of it far outweigh the medical one. Because I don't think, although it's a serious virus, I don't think it's that serious. I think the economic consequences is probably a lot more harmful for people in the long run. Of what
Yeah.
they're doing, the overreaction.
I tend to agree with you, although given the exponential growth and the mortality rate, I mean it could be very very significant on the health front as well. And I'm going to have to check my cameras here in a second too. So but in the near term, it's the economic effects that are really going to hurt people, especially again disproportionately the low income people who live paycheck to paycheck with little to no savings and so forth. They're really going to be hurting. Now in the FS of A here, Fascist States of America, who you folks out there who don't know my acronyms. Trumpovetsky, our clown in chief, has announced, I think, a $2 trillion stimulus package. Okay? And they're talking about something like $1,000 per adult and $500 per child for every man, woman, and child citizen of this country. And, you work out the math on that, and, it's a lot of freaking money, but it's still, I think, only once a year. I don't think they're talking about handing this money out every month. So, $1,000, it doesn't even pay you rent in a lot of places in this country, in all the big cities for sure. So, I don't know what they expect this will do, and it will certainly demand the printing of a lot more funny money. And how long can that last? Well, it's already lasted a lot longer than I thought it could, but when the financial crisis came in 2008, but this has got to send it over the edge, on a financial level. And we're seeing that certainly in the stock market. You work in Munster, so why don't you tell us, a little bit about what's going on in the financial sector over there. Do you have any contact with traders or strictly retail banking, or what are you hearing through the grapevine, et cetera?
I mean, to be honest, I don't have any contacts. Not that many, not real contacts in the investment arm of the business. So basically, my knowledge is just gonna come from the same places as you. And everything just seems kind of reminiscent of the financial crisis. There's been a lot of there's the values of the stocks have taken major hit in the last month or so, and I can see more potential for a downside than an upside in the immediate future, i.e. the next 6 months, because I think at the moment there isn't really a lot of talk about the economic impact of all these social distancing and cuts to travel. That hasn't really come into the economic landscape just yet. But I guess it will be interesting to see how the markets react around April when we start getting unemployed figures and just general industrial performance and things. Because I think when they get wind of that, I can expect there will be other setback. So any temporary gains through stimulus package will likely be lost with the next one, and then you have to think about not just April, but what's going to be May and June and so forth. These are the things that will be an issue here. I mean, at least for the UK, I think with this stimulus package, i.e. paying all the people to work, paying their wages, that is, it sounds outlandish, but when I sort of look at the figures, the UK's working population is about 32 million, and I think 5 million of those are self-employed. So the self-employed people are not covered under this policy. So you've got about 27 million. 27 million times by 2,500, that's going to be 27 billion. 27 billion a month, 54. So it really depends on how many people sign on to this scheme. But if you're saying 10% of all the workforce sign up to this deal, it would be about 5 to 6 billion pounds a month to pay that wage bill. So when you look at the language and you think, oh, the government's paying, it sounds like a lot. But when you compare it to the 350 or 330 billion stimulus package, it's looking a little bit like a drop in the ocean. So I suppose that could go on for a while, and that could limit the impact. But we'll just have to wait and see, really. But the language that's used from Boris is he's suggesting these measures could be here for the most of 2020. So that's the question, I think, with the markets. How long is this going to last? Because I think personally there's an underlying assumption that it will go on for about 3 months. So that takes us to June, May, depending on how you see it. But if it becomes apparent that the restrictive measures have to last longer than that, I could see a lot of shocks happening. And the worst case scenario I could see in places like America even is if you've got an Italy type situation, a health crisis and an economic crisis. I don't know, how that's going to impact, I think that will have a huge impact on the elections.
Oh, absolutely. Guys, I'm going to have you pause here for a second. Talk to each other. We're going to have to cut this part out. I've got a camera to get working again.
So...
Right. All right, gang. Cameras are back. We're back. We're now back live, folks. The problems have been repaired, and hopefully will be good for the rest of the episode, because already I have an editing job from hell to do, okay, which I'm not looking forward to. All right, so, financial services is still running. Limping, that's probably more the right word, limping along. We've had nonstop series of steps down on the Dow Industrial Average and the S&P 500 and so forth and so on. So that means a lot of notional wealth has been lost, a lot of asset wealth. And I think neither of you guys have stock investments. I do have some in a 401k that I never have touched. It just kind of sits there because I don't need it. And I have no idea how much value it has lost or, where it's at right now. I have no idea whatsoever. And I don't really care. It'll do what it will do. Like I said, I don't really need that money at this point. So we mentioned, some of the stuff that's missing off the shelves. Jason, you mentioned that now you're starting to see produce, fresh produce, meats and stuff start to disappear. So far, I haven't seen that. In my couple of trips last week I went to Three Bears one day and Walmart another day. The main missing items were the paper goods, toilet paper and paper towels, and frozen pizzas, interestingly enough, and canned soups. Okay, long-lasting foods. The meats, as of last week, and I hope to get out today with my Crippled Helper for a quick expedition, is see how the meats are doing, and fresh produce, see if there's any change with that. And I did come up with a solution. This is a top secret. Only people who watch this show are going to know this secret. Okay? Now, every place is out of toilet paper, right? Everywhere. It's global, okay? They're out of toilet paper in England. And that's because everybody is buying TP, okay? And what do you call it? I got to give my Crippled Helper something else to do now.
Just keep cleaning this way if you want.
That works.
Okay.
Just do that. Yeah, you know what? You could. Oh no, I did the stove.
It could be done again real quick.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
I mean, it could be done again.
My job is never good enough. Right? When I do it, it's not good enough. Yeah, actually, we'll do this counter over here that has the food on it, because I think I messed that counter up a little bit, and the cutting board too. Clean the cutting board.
Okay.
Okay. So where was it? What? Oh, what's available in the stores? So I hope to see what's available. Oh, and the toilet paper solution. So everybody's buying toilet paper. So what are they buying? Okay, they're buying, the usual commercial rolls that you and I always buy when we go to the store. The roll of Charmin. Those rolls are all standard size. So that's what's out. Who is not buying toilet paper right now?
Actually, I just said it to other people. What you could do, you get a newspaper, get Trump's face on it, and then use that as toilet paper.
Of course, you can use, substitute. But no, real toilet paper. Who's not using it, and what supply of toilet paper is available? Restaurants! The restaurants, they got no customers, so they don't need toilet paper. So I went to a commercial site, and I bought those big-ass fucking rolls of toilet paper. I bought a case of them. It cost me like $80.
You know what?
That's supposed to come in the mail. I'm gonna have toilet paper until the end of my life.
You know what works now? They're looking up the toilet paper. Like the toilet paper they're using the staff room.
Right.
They're putting it behind lock and key because they're worried that people will just take that toilet roll back home. What you did.
Right. Well, I'm not stealing it from my workplace or from restaurants. I'm actually buying it from the commercial paper suppliers that supply the restaurants. Okay, because they're not buying it right now.
Oh, I get you.
You see, and they got you buy these rolls like this big. They're huge. I've also
Yeah, 3 months I got a huge box delivered. It's made of bamboo. It's cheaper than normal toilet paper. It's I don't ever buy it in the shop.
There you go.
Really nice packaged as well.
Yeah, and I'm conserving. You know, I used to use 4 squares per poop. Now I've cut it to 2 squares per poop. Okay, so I should be good, and I have a bunch in my usual preps that's still on the shelf, so I'm not hurting right now, and I won't be hurting for months. And I have not taken delivery yet on this paper that I buy, so I'm not 100% sure that it's really going to work. But when I get it, if I get it, I will definitely display it on the diner. All right. Well, I have.
Remind me, like Siggy, Golden Oxen, he'd always say, "Oh, the paper's worse toilet paper. That paper's worth a lot of money."
Yeah, that's true. It's worth more than the money you pay for it, right? You know, these big rolls that I buy, I bet you I could re-roll them onto small tubes and resell them at a huge profit.
No, I think the guy in Tennessee, he got in trouble for that.
Did he? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I read about that. Yeah, he was reselling.
I think he took the piss, though.
Yeah.
He took the piss.
Yeah. He was.
Did you hear that story?
He was reselling. He was buying up hand sanitizer and stuff like that from on Amazon, and then reselling it at a higher price. And they caught him, and he's. I think he had to pay a fine or something, and he's stuck. He's mainly stuck with all this stuff that he can't sell, and so he's got inventory worth millions, and he can't sell any of it. So that's his problem. But anyway, I was going to say I have stuff to do here with my assistant, and so I'm going to have to close our broadcast for the day. I think we talked about an hour anyway, which is usual amount of time. And of the average viewer does not usually go much longer than that. So we will catch up again with another update probably in a month or so after we see how things are progressing, because we're going to know a lot better, I think, where we're going in a month than we know now. It's a lot of the problems have just started. The mandatory restrictions in England and over here, they mostly have gone into effect since Friday, and it is now Saturday. It's only a day. So we've got a ways to go on this road. So, Jason, Monster, thanks for showing up again, and that's all to do. This time until next time, here on the Collapse Cafe of the Doomstead Diner. Hasta la fish and chips.